this is Mike Mascia, Cadwallader. Thanks for dialing into Fund Finance Friday industry conversations on this incredibly busy news week. With the FFA's virtual event on November 16th, we've got the dream team from across the globe here with us, starting with Nick Mitra of Natixis, who's kind of been organizing the entire event. Rob Duggan in London, who's covered all of the European event and led our content there. And then Danielle Roman Morant in Hong Kong, who's been the leader of the Asian Days. Guys, welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Michael.
So Nick, why don't you give us an overview, kind of high level of how the week's shaping up?
Sure. Thanks, Michael. We're going to start off, it's 5 days, starting November 16th. 5 days from there, 2 days with Europe, 2 days with Asia, and 1 day global. In that, we're going to cover a number of very exciting topics, everything from frequent PEI to sponsor booths and Zoom happy hours. Each day will be a little bit different. The content will be tailored towards the specific market that we're aiming at. And Global Day is going to cover a lot of the overall initiatives that the FFA has been very involved in: ESG, Women in Fund Finance, diversity, and others.
So it starts on Monday the 16th, and that's with the European Day?
That's correct.
And what time will that start, European time and New York time?
It's 1 p.m. London time.
Okay, great. So Rob, you're the man on the street there in London. Tell us what's going on with the content for the European event.
Sure, thanks, Mike. We've got a really wide-ranging content in Europe this year. The virtual platform gives us the opportunity to cover probably more topics than the in-person conference because it's much more scalable. So we'll be looking at the traditional fund finance products, subscription lines, NAV facilities, hybrids. We'll be also looking towards how can lenders monetize their book and tap into latent value of their loans, syndication, collateralized loan obligations. We'll also be looking at the convergence of leverage and traditional fund finance at fund level and where the risks lie in a pre-crisis economy. So all of the products and from the very bottom right to the far end of the life of a loan, we'll be looking at those and doing a deep dive in various different panels. We're also running with ESG as the core that will run through the conference from start to finish. The keynote address will be from Sir Ronald Cohen, founder of Apax, who, unlike my LinkedIn feed where ESG and impact has been a feature of the last 12 months, he has been an impact investor and championing impact investing for the last 20 years. So I suspect we've got a lot of lessons to learn from him. He'll be on the second day of the conference. We'll have fireside chats with interesting people. We'll touch on COVID vaccines and financing of COVID vaccines and how private equity is getting involved in that, and general life interest stories of successful people. Exciting content, really looking forward to it.
That's great. It sounds really good, Rob. Thanks for all your work on that. Danielle, not live from Hong Kong, but glad you're with us. Tell us about the Asia Days.
Thanks, Mike. So I think the thing I'm most excited about the Asia conference is the speakers that we have this year. Our keynote speakers, we've got Wei Jianshan, who's CEO and chairman of PAG, and he's written the book Out of the Gobi. So we're going to be hearing from him and his incredible story of his survival in the Gobi Desert during the Cultural Revolution in China and his very interesting perspective on US-China relations. We've got Hiromichi Mizuno, who is on the board for Tesla. So again, tying in with the European theme on ESG and looking at ESG investing and what the future might hold in this space. And we've also got Ronnie Chen, who's chair of the Asia Society and Hang Lung Group. And he's going to be talking about the very difficult situations that we've been dealing with here, COVID, US-China relations, and the impact on it from a commercial perspective, as well as looking forward into Hong Kong's future in the Asian economy. Drilling down a bit more into the panels themselves, we've decided to take a more holistic view this year. I think there's just so much that has happened this year. We don't just want to be focusing on product. I think we have to put product in context. So we're looking at the evolving fund market here. We're looking at fundraising and how that's been impacted. We're also going to be reflecting back on the last year Another good one is going to be the Great Jurisdictional Debate. So for us here looking at Hong Kong versus Singapore versus Cayman versus Luxembourg, and having a good and open discussion on that. And finally, crystal ball gazing. What does 2021 hold for us, particularly off the back of the US elections? So I think it's going to be really relevant, exciting, contemporary stuff that we're going to be listening to. Yeah, really looking forward to it.
That's great. That's great. So for those of us in the US who don't match up as well for your live sessions, time zone wise, will there be an opportunity for us to watch on a tape delay?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything's going to be recorded. I think, Nick, you probably have the lowdown on this.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So one of the beauties of going virtual, Mike, is that you can play it back at your leisure once the sessions have played during the conference times. So unlike previous years where you had to pick a track to go into, you can go into any track. Not only can you go into any track, you can go to any conference. So even if previous years you had an Asia ticket, you only went to the Hong Kong or Singapore conferences. This year, with that ticket gets you Europe, gets you Asia, and also gets you global.
That's great. That's great. Now, if somebody isn't registered yet, or if an institution wants to sponsor, what can they do kind of here at the last minute?
Sure, absolutely. And it depends sort of categories of who you are. As always, LPs and GPs and fund managers have been free. We continue to do that. We will always do that as part of the FFA's global offering. In terms of the banks and law firms, you have two ways, as I mentioned. You can purchase a ticket individually, that's $595 US per ticket, or you can be as part of your firm sponsorship. We have many global sponsors. They come with a very healthy allocation of tickets. So we'd encourage people to contact their point of contact for the FFA and then through them register so they get the access before the conference.
Well, great. Well, look, I'm looking forward to it. I appreciate all the work y'all three have done to get the event together. And I'll see you on the 16th.
Look forward to it.
Great. Well, thanks for dialing in to Fund Finance Friday Industry Conversations. We talked today primarily about Virtual Week that the FFA is hosting. But before that, next Thursday on November 12th is Cadwallader's Finance Forum. And we've got two really good fund finance panels set up. So I hope you can check that out. Sam Hutchinson and Brian Foster, along with a host of clients, are going to be having a panel on NAV facilities. And then Wes Miss and Tim Hicks and Holly Loftus on our team are going to be doing a data presentation. We've gone and looked at all of the transactions in our portfolio for 2020, including both pre-COVID and post-COVID, and seeing how they all compare. So it's really good data. As you know, data is hard to get in our industry. So, we do what we can to help keep you informed. I hope you'll be able to attend. That's Thursday afternoon. Thanks and have a great weekend.
The material and information contained in the podcast is for general informational purposes only. Any use of the audio within this podcast without the express consent of Cadwallader is prohibited. Quotes from this podcast may not be used without the express permission of the speaker.